Today, we're going to talk about one of the most foundational stories in the entire Bible, the Exodus. But here's the twist. We're going to see it through the eyes of a prophet who basically told his people they had remembered it all wrong. I mean, just think about that for a second. What if your nation's most cherished story, the one that proves God is on your side, was suddenly flipped and retold as a long, unbroken story of failure? Well, that is the bombshell that prophet Ezekiel dropped. So the question is, why? Why on earth would you tear down a people's greatest source of hope, especially when they need it the most? That's what we're going to get into. To really get why this was so incredibly radical, we have to put ourselves in the shoes of the people who first heard this. We need to understand just how desperate they were for any piece of good news.
So the year is 591 BC. The leaders of Judah have been ripped from their homes and forced into exile in Babylon. It's been 6 long years. They go to Ezekiel, who's a prophet living among them, and they're basically begging for a message from God. And you know the message they want to hear, right? They want to hear they're going home. A hope that was built on their most treasured story.
And that story, of course, was the Exodus. I mean, this wasn't just a story. It was the story. It was the bedrock of their whole identity and their entire relationship with God. It was ultimate proof of his love and his protection. The Exodus story they grew up with, the one they told their children, was powerful and, honestly, pretty straightforward. God sees his people suffering as slaves, he swoops in heroically to save them, guides them through the wilderness, and gives them the promised land. For these exiles sitting in Babylon, this wasn't just some old tale. No, it was a living promise. It was the guarantee that God had their back, and that, for sure, he would bring them home again. But Ezekiel is about to take a sledgehammer to that hope. He doesn't just poke holes in their cherished story, he completely dismantles it, and in its place, he gives them a damning explanation for why they're in exile in the first place. And he starts his rewrite right at the beginning. Not in the wilderness, but all the way back in Egypt. See, the traditional story paints them as innocent victims, right? Helpless slaves. But Ezekiel says, nope. He says they were already worshiping Egyptian idols. They were already rebelling against God and refused to listen even before he rescued them. So if they were already rebels, why did God save them? Ezekiel's answer here is a real stunner. It wasn't because Israel was so good or so deserving. It was to protect his own reputation. He had already told the Egyptians he was going to save this nation, and if he backed out, it would make him look weak. So he acted, as the text says, for the sake of my name. And the rebellion, he says, didn't stop there. What about the journey through the wilderness? Traditionally, that was seen as a time of testing, a way to build faith. Ezekiel sees it as just immediate and total failure. God gives them these perfect, life-giving laws, and what do? They almost instantly turn their backs on him to worship a golden calf. Okay, you might be thinking, but what about their kids, the next generation that actually got to go into the promised land? Surely they were the faithful ones. Well, not according to Ezekiel. He claims they were rebels too. And here's the kicker. He says God passed a suspended sentence on them right there in the wilderness. I mean, think about that. It's like a deferred punishment. God was basically saying, you've already broken the deal. The consequence, exile, is now locked in. It's just a matter of when. And for those elders listening to Ezekiel, that when was now. And this brings us to one of the most shocking and frankly difficult verses in the entire book. God saying he gave them laws that were not good? How is that even possible? It seems to go against everything we're told about God's character. Well, the key seems to be in the law about the firstborn. Now, the original rule was clear. You redeem your firstborn sons with money, and you sacrifice your firstborn animals. But the Hebrew verb used for this could be translated as set apart or make over. Some of the Israelites actually twisted this language to justify the horrifying pagan practice of child sacrifice, arguing they were just making over their children to God. So here's the crucial point Ezekiel is making. God didn't give them a bad law. He gave them up to their own rebellious, twisted interpretation of a good law. In other words, he allowed them to walk down their own dark path, a path that could only end in one place: judgment. So after this absolutely brutal teardown of their entire national history, just when all hope seems completely lost, Ezekiel pivots. He suddenly starts talking about the future. He starts talking about a new Exodus. And the message is simple but powerful. The God who performed the first Exodus is going to do that miracle all over again. He is going to bring his people out of Babylon just like he brought them out of Egypt. There is hope for a return. But, and this is a huge but, there's a critical difference this time. This second Exodus will have its own wilderness journey, but Ezekiel calls it a wilderness of the peoples. And in this place, God is going to act like a shepherd screening his flock. The rebels, the transgressors, they're going to be purged, weeded out, just like that first generation that died in the desert. This ensures that only a purified, faithful remnant actually gets to go home.
So, what's the point of all this? Why tell the story this way? Why tear down the old Exodus just to build up a new one? Well, Ezekiel's message here has a really profound purpose. You see, the goal wasn't just to get back to the land, it was to return as a fundamentally changed people. Once they were back, they were commanded to remember their polluted past and to actually loathe their own evil actions. This painful memory wasn't meant to crush them. It was meant to be a permanent, searing reminder of their constant need for God's grace. For Ezekiel, there were no shortcuts, no easy answers. The elders couldn't just sit around hoping to go back to the good old days, clinging to a glorified version of their history. They had to understand that the only path to a genuine, pure future required a brutal, unflinchingly honest look at the failures of their past. And Ezekiel's radical retelling leaves us with this timeless and, let's be honest, pretty uncomfortable question. What happens when a people, a nation, is forced to look at its heroes and see their flaws? To look at its foundational stories and see them not as simple tales of glory, but as complicated histories of failure? For Ezekiel, the answer is clear. It's only through that painful confrontation that true restoration can ever really begin.